the DORK podcast with Rich Keefe. It's the DORK podcast. Barbarian Davey. It's the DORK podcast. Hashtag. It's the hashtag DORK podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to another spooky edition of the hashtag DORK podcast. My name is Rich Keefe, joined as always by Davey Eyeballs. He is Rick Rude Von Dick Dude. He, of course, is...
It's Ryan. It's Ryan. It's my Ryan. My Ryan.
All hail the king of ginger ale. It's Ryan Davey. Davey, how are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you? You look fantastic tonight.
So to you, Ryan, I would like to say that we have, if you're just listening to the audio portion of this, you are missing out, folks. Go check out
missing out.
Davey and I are both dressed to the hilt because we're recording this on Halloween. I am, of course, actually, we're both, I think you should leave themed.
Yes.
Davey, one of the great ones of all time, by the way. Actually, I think both of these sketches are right up there at the top. But tell us a little bit about yourself here, Ryan. What do you got going on?
What I got going on right now is the guy at the hat store told me that I was the only person he's ever seen pull this off. And I figured I would get it. It's a great Halloween costume, but yeah.
Well, I need to grease these wheels.
Well, I'm not. The guy said I'm not supposed to get grease on it.
I don't need to grease this hat that much. I, of course, am just looking for the guy who did this.
Right.
You know, we're here talking about Pornhub and YouPorn, XTube, Simpson stuff. We know these names better than our own grandparents' names.
Hey, Rich, want to know what makes the costume, though?
What's that? Don't fucking touch him.
Quit fucking with him.
Quit fucking with him. That's what it is. Quit fucking with him.
Quit fucking with him.
Oh, that's great.
It's gonna roll the dice there a little bit.
I'm sure there already are these, but like I think you should leave parties is probably where it's at because there's so many good. You could do Stable of Stars, and then you could have him coming in with his whole crew.
Wild.
He can't hit.
Oh no, he can. He can
hit.
There would be a lot of people, and the best part about going to, I think you should leave costume party is the simplicity of
most of them. Yeah,
put a fucking button on a shirt. You get a TC Tugger right there.
Tugger.
It's not a joke.
It's not ironic like the snug. You don't wear it on a pub crawl. That was. Remember, we had a guy that bought a TC Tugger. Remember, he was like, "I'm gonna buy one," and then he got it, and it was just like a hunk of shit in the mail.
Oh yeah, it was just literally like a pop socket that someone had put on a shirt.
Pretty good. How was your Halloween?
That was good. It was uneventful, which means it's good. So like there was no tears, which is great.
Oh, that's a win.
The girls got equal amounts of candy, like an obscene amount of candy though. Like when someone says like, "Oh, take as much as you want," like my kids don't fuck around.
They're like, I was doing that by the end of the night so we went out and it was great, and then we came back and we're like, nobody was out this year. Like it was just like pretty dead for the first hour. Then the second hour we got more kids, but like we had so much candy. So when they would come, I'm like, grab as much as you want. Yep. And it's funny to see which kids do what. Some grab like one handful and they're like, thank you. Others do like two fists and they're like, you said whatever. I'm like, I did.
It's all you, pal.
Like,
yeah.
Have at it. Whatever you want. I did see via your wife's Instagram what you guys wore. And let me tell you, that is a scary family outfit. Tell the people what it was.
So my wife is very much, Halloween is her favorite holiday. Yeah, sorry, I couldn't think of the word for a second. Had a little bit of a brain fart. And so her thing is like, I want to do, in the grand scheme of things, the shelf life of this is so short. She's like, I want to do family costumes as long as we can. And it's like her thing.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
So one year we were the Addams Family. 1 year, I mean, we did a bunch of different shit, but this year we did Nightmare Before Christmas characters.
It's great.
I was the mayor.
Scary.
I had the mask, the mask could you like turn it around like the guy does in the movie. And they were the two. My wife and my younger daughter were like the Oogie Boogie kids, and then Quinn, my older daughter, was Sally. Yeah, so it was nice.
Great. It was super good.
Yep. So we have some in the works already for next year that we already talked about. So we'll see what happens next.
We did more of a hodgepodge. My wife was a witch. I was a hot dog. And my 3-year-old wanted to be a green dinosaur. Last year, she wanted to be a pink dinosaur, and she was, and it was great. This year, she was a green dinosaur, and it was great. And then our little baby went as a black cat. She stayed home. But when we were trick-or-treating, Got a ton of stuff. It was great. I think it might be my daughter or my 3-year-old's favorite holiday as well. She gets so fired up to go door to door and trick or treat. Like last year as a 2-year-old, you would have thought she did it for like 20 years in a row. She was just like grabs the bucket or the bag or whatever, goes right up to the door, knocks, says trick or treat, thank you, and it's like loves it. Like loves it more than Christmas, I think.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
You're gonna have fun for years then.
Anyway, it was a great night. It was a great time had by all. Hopefully everybody had a nice Halloween as well, Ryan, as it is, of course, the end of the spooky season.
Sure is.
And we are also one day away from No Nut November.
That's right.
Does anybody do that? That sounds wild.
No one does that. You don't do that's wild. No, don't do that.
There'll be so much nut.
Don't do that.
Kidding me?
Get out there, sow your seeds.
There's gonna be piles of nut
everywhere. Like
oh my
fat
god,
load of gum then.
It might I promise you, folks, it's gonna be the opposite.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry. Any of these little fuckers ever pop out of the fucking wall and say, fuck, there's a horse cock in my room or a donkey dick?
What if we did on like Big Nut November?
That's all I do. Yeah, so it's nice. It's nice for me that it's like there's I've kept Bed Bath and Beyond in business on my own, just in towels, just buying towels.
I was gonna say, and I eat like too much celery as it is,
right?
And so it's large loads.
Right.
So anyway,
beach towels, not like some people use Kleenex. I have to use like a beach towel.
Beach towel. That's disgusting, Ryan. And I'm going to edit that from the podcast because
okay, I'm sorry. We're working blue tonight.
It's crass. Just because it's Halloween doesn't mean you can get a little loosey goosey.
Right.
Well, we have a lot to get to, Ryan, today, like we do every night.
Sure do.
And let's start with the news.
This week in DORK.
Did you happen to see Tales of the Jedi on Disney Plus?
Not yet. There's been too much stuff to watch for me recently. I heard it's great.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's no doubt. It was, I think, 6 episodes, and they're all real short, like as advertised. They're animated shorts. And if you are a fan of Clone Wars at all or Rebels at all, and also just sort of like learning a little bit more about some of these characters, it's specifically about Count Dooku and Ahsoka Tano. I loved it. Like I thought it was great. The first episode, which is about Ahsoka Tano, who might be my favorite character in Star Wars, is not. It's like fine, and then the next 5 are awesome. So like, I highly recommend it. It could potentially even be a standalone dork at some point. It's worth talking about. It just sort of adds to the story. It's like taking like, you know, when there's like a series of movies and then they write like comic books that are all canon, like for the characters or whatever. It's kind of the same idea as that, but I liked it. It adds more to Count Dooku. And again, there's so much shit. And I haven't even caught up on Andor, but I'm hearing the same thing about Andor. It's like between Clone Wars, Andor, and Tales of the Jedi, it's like making up for the pile of shit that was the prequels for the Star Wars. Like all of these things are so interesting. And then
I'm telling you,
are just trash.
There's no, I really like Andor. I know I might be in the minority with that. I don't think I am, but I really like it.
No, I'm hearing a lot of great stuff about it so far. I'm waiting to binge it because I know once it's done, we will do a standalone for sure on it. And so I watched the first 3 episodes, thought it was kind of boring, but I also did think the 3rd episode was better than the first 2. And then by all accounts, it's like just better and better, right?
It gets better. Yeah, it does. And it gets like deeper and deeper into like that story and like who that character is as a person. So it's and the stuff, what's more interesting too is like the stuff that's going on in the background while that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so like by the way, did you just hear one of the dice just fall?
I was like, well, I didn't know if that was your guy, Ogie Oglethorpe coming back.
No, that was the dice fell. So it's everything that went on to make that rebellion happen. Like the stuff that had to happen. Like it's really, really interesting. Did you see, so someone, I guess Colin Trevorrow, the guy who's supposed to direct The Last Jedi, and he was going to call it The Duel of the Fates. Like someone got a hold of his script and like animated it, like what it was supposed to be. And it's these like Australian guys, and it was kind of funny, but like they went through the whole script and what it was supposed to be.
Is that the guy that did Jurassic World?
Yes. Remember, he was originally supposed to direct The Last Jedi, and he called his script was called The Duel of the Fates, and then he got like and then J.J. Abrams came on and like took over the whole thing.
That would have been amazing.
Oh, his script is fucking awesome. It's awesome.
All right.
So like I don't understand why they just didn't go with that, but whatever. Yeah.
Apparently there is going to be a Vision series. And I honestly thought this was a Onion article, or like how there's discussing film and then there's disbussing film.
Yes, which got me. Fuckers got me.
It got you and it got Gresh.
Yep.
But apparently there's gonna legit be a Vision series, and it's gonna be called Vision Quest. And the reason why I laughed out loud is because two of my college roommates and two of my good buds were both high school wrestlers, and they both were obsessed with the movie Vision Quest.
Which is like, I think of like people of our age who were wrestlers back in high school. This was like required viewing for them.
It was the only movie they had. Like this was before like Foxcatcher and shit. So it was like Vision Quest. My buddy Ike would always be like, well, let's watch Vision Quest. I'm like, I don't want to watch fucking Vision Quest at all. Yeah. I don't want to watch it. I've seen it. Don't need to see it again. But anyway, apparently they can just take the name. Like I feel like that you can't do that.
Maybe it's public domain at this point. Who knows?
On a scale of 1 to 6, 6 being, oh my God, I can't wait. I hope it comes out tonight. 1 being, I probably won't even watch it. Where do you stand on Vision Quest?
I put it at a 4 just because I'm going to wind up watching it anyway. But also, like, my interest could wax or wane depending on who's attached to this, like who's running this.
Yeah, good point. I mean, obviously, they're getting Paul Bettany back as Vision. And apparently, you're going to get Scarlet Witch is going to make an appearance. They're like, oh, maybe Scarlet Witch. I'm like, if Scarlet Witch isn't in this, like, what are we even doing?
Right.
But
so is it like the White Vision trying to like get back to normal?
Get his memories back, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, obviously, it's MCU Disney Plus. We're gonna watch.
Maybe he does a bunch of ayahuasca and some peyote, and that's how he does it.
Oh, that'd be great.
If he wants to go on a real Vision Quest, that's how you do it.
We watched a show on Hulu. Steve Carell had mentioned it on the podcast. It was called The Patient. It just came to an end. You liked it more than I did. You gave it a 4.5. I gave it a 3.5 out of 6. To me, really intriguing early on. We mentioned one of our theories for the show, which did not come true, by the way.
No.
I feel like that would have been far more interesting than what they ended up doing with the show, though.
Well, so for me, I thought, so it's 10 episodes, right? I thought that like the first 3 were very intriguing.
Yeah.
And then episodes 4 through 8 were like, come on, like,
boring.
Let's go. And then they kind of brought it back. Like I feel like the way it ended was the only way it was going to end ever.
Yeah.
And I think that added to it a little bit for me. So that's why I gave it a little bit of a bump.
The Steve Carell son storyline, I feel like you didn't need, and you could have shortened it like several episodes.
You could have shortened it, but like you said, once that started to unpack a little bit, like, but I mean, without spoiling it, I mean, I can't really talk about it without spoiling it, but yeah, you really didn't need that.
I just thought it was too much. Like, it's well acted. I can see why people may have liked it, but I just feel like by the end you're like, right. Like to me, it was borderline. Again, 3.5, not a complete waste of time for me, but it was like, would I recommend this to somebody knowing how it ends? Like, would I be like 10 hours or not 10 hours? Actually, it was a lot shorter than that. It was shorter episodes, but like 10 episodes. Would you tell somebody to sit through it? Probably not.
But after the first 2 or 3, I made it my pick of the pod. It's like, so that's the rub.
100%. Yeah. Tricky. Another show that is out on Netflix right now, Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities. So it is 8 short films that are all like an hour, some are a little bit less, 8 different directors. And it's funny, the directors are pretty cool. Like some of them have done like 1 or 2. Like the director of Mandy did one, the director of The Babadook did one, the director of I was looking at this earlier, I forget. A bunch of like, kind of new, and then some a little bit more veteran actually the woman who did 13 and Lords of Dogtown, she did one of these. And Guillermo del Toro wrote 2 of them, and then he kind of presents it, and so it's almost like Twilight Zone, Tales from the Crypt type shit, where he like talks about it for like 30 seconds, and then here comes the movie. 8 episodes in total. I have started the 7th, so I'm almost done.
Okay. I watched 2, and the best is like I watched the first night. I watched the first one with the storage unit.
Yep.
Solid. That one was good. And then I was skipping around a little bit, and I watched the one with Kate Micucci and the lotion one with Martin Starr.
Martin Starr. Yeah, the casts are weird in this. It's like randos that are in there. Like Martin Starr's in one, Eric Andre's in one. The dude who played Jigsaw in the Punisher series is in one. Crispin Glover's in that same one. So I've been watching them in order, and
the lotion one was fucking weird.
The lotion one felt like a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah.
Like big time, like a Black Mirror episode. So the first one, and it has that one actor that you recognize. He played Looking Glass in the Watchmen series, and he was Buster Scruggs or Scruggs and
Buster Scruggs. Yeah, his name's and he was in Oh Brother Where Art Thou. His name's Timothy. Forget the guy's name, but you know him. Character actor, little guy. Yeah, he's a three-namer.
So to me, and not to poo-poo the series for you, I think that first one might be the best one so far.
That's a awesome one. It was pretty good.
But Guillermo del Toro wrote that one, and he also wrote the last one. So I'm excited for the last one. The seventh one is interesting, but I'm like halfway through it, and I'm like, all right, you need to get somewhere. You need to kind of get to it.
Tim Blake Nelson.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. So that's one of those. I'm curious. Let us know if you guys are watching the show. Let us know at Dork Podcast on Twitter or email us dorkpodcast@gmail.com. I haven't heard anybody talking about it. I love the idea. I think they're decent, but I can't at this point tell you to like, oh, you have to see these. Like, I would recommend the first one. It's called Lot 36. Watch that first one. The other ones have all been like, oh, the kid who plays what's his name from Harry Potter is in it. What's his name? Rupert. What's his name?
Oh yeah. So Ron Weasley. It's
Ron Weasley is in one of these episodes.
Rupert Grint.
Yeah. So a weird kind of like cast. Liam Hemsworth has been called on to replace Henry Cavill in season 4 of The Witcher. Now, this is a show my dad loves. He loves The Witcher. I couldn't get through the first season. I was like 3 episodes in. I'm like, this is confusing and boring.
Well, it's very much Game of Thronesian in that there's a lot of people who get introduced, and there's a lot of shit that happens that you have to get backstory on.
Yeah,
and I couldn't myself get past Henry Cavill's voice in this. Like he kind of talks like this, like with a much sexier accent. But
he's handsome.
I mean, this is no big loss. I mean, I feel like Liam Hemsworth is going to be fine with this. I mean, he has the genetics to get absolutely huge for this show.
Oh yeah, he's gonna get real big.
And the good news is that Cavill then parlays that information, and he's doing Superman again, and he's doing the Guy Ritchie movie he did, Man from U.N.C.L.E. So they're doing a sequel to that. So he's fine. Henry's not going anywhere. So
no, Henry, it frees him up for other stuff. It is weird for people who like the show though, just to all of a sudden see a different actor, like. Because he's the main actor. Like in Game of Thrones, they swapped out Dario Naharis's. In the MCU, they swapped out War Machines. They swapped out the Hulk. But like, this is the main guy. So I'm curious how people are gonna take this. Like, yeah, he's fine, but it's sort of jarring. Like, hey,
it is
a new guy playing a new character.
Yeah, but at the same time, like you said, I don't think anybody really. There's the hardcore fans who are all about this, but I don't think like the casual fan will give a shit.
Ooh, Henry Cavill, according to the chat here, rumored to be in House of the Dragon.
I mean, he's swapping out a white wig for another, if he's going to be a Targaryen. So I did hear something that like they wanted to do something like with Aegon the Conqueror and showing like kind of like flashback with that, and he would be Aegon the Conqueror.
Oh, like the OG Aegon.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Yeah, nice. That would be pretty dope. I'm just excited. So like the James Gunn news at DC was news to us, but not anyone else. Like I'm sure that everybody who was involved in future projects knew that was coming. So like maybe James Gunn and Henry Cavill had a discussion and it was like, this is where I see this going.
Yeah.
And did you see James Gunn put out something today? It was like a happy Halloween tweet, and it was a picture of Dead Man.
Oh my God.
That would be bonkers if he did a Dead Man thing.
We need Justice League Dark. We need in the DCEU, we need more Swamp Thing. We need more Constantine,
Lobo,
Deadman, Zatanna. We need all of them and a lot of them.
That's right.
All right. Very good. Let's get to this.
It's time for Davey's Video Game Minute, even if it takes more than a minute.
All right, sir. What do you have?
So I'll make this quick. I mean, because we got a lot. I have a lot to talk about today. So
it's a double feature.
A creature double feature.
Oh.
My mother-in-law says that whenever she goes to she talks about Walmarts in New Hampshire. She goes, "Oh, creature double feature." Every time there's weirdos at New Hampshire Walmarts. Anyway, so in art, video games imitating life. 6 players and 1 coach have been banned from the NBA 2K League this year. You know why?
Why?
Gambling on the sport. Look at that.
E-gaming.
E-game. Well, basketball specifically. So, look at that. Tim Donaghy all over again.
Shaving points.
Shaving points.
Things like that.
Yeah. Throwing games. There's a lot. So they're banned.
I don't like that at all.
2K. I don't like that, right? But isn't it ironic, don't you think?
It is. Yes.
That the sport game that's going to do that is the basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I have never seen, speaking of Tim Donaghy, is there a professional sport where the referees have more control over the game than basketball? I'm just thinking
probably not. Although I guess if you were a home plate umpire and you gave every single borderline call to one pitcher one way and then the other way, I guess you could. It might end up being more obvious, but
right.
Baseball would be pretty interesting.
Baseball would be interesting, but I feel like basketball, the referee could in every way facet of the game take over the game.
Oh yeah, you call 2 to 3 cheap fouls on the best player, the coach is forced to take him out of the game for a while, and then of course.
So there's that. And so we didn't talk about this last week, but the new Modern Warfare 2 just dropped. I gotta tell you, man, I was reading something. If you bought the hard copy of it, right? Did you read this?
No.
If you bought the hard copy of Modern Warfare, there's only 72 megabytes of data on the disc. There's nothing on it. It's just it's basically just the thing that leads you to downloading 100 gigs of shit. There's nothing on it.
Here it is. Yeah.
How do you do that? I don't understand how that's,
I don't know.
How you're able to do that and get away with it. Skins are expensive, middling reviews on this whole thing. I just don't, for me, it's just just repackaged bullshit. I feel like Call of Duty recently is just basically the first person shooter Madden. They just shine it up real nice and just try to make it look better. And I don't know, the story mode sucks. I'm reading. So there's no real benefit for me of getting this. I can play Overwatch for free. Right. I don't need to do any of this shit. So, I don't know. If you're into Call of Duty, if that's your thing, that's fine. I don't have really any time for this anymore.
Well, it's Kyler Murray's thing, and they started this a long time ago on there was a Reddit page that kicked this off, and every time there's a new release of Call of Duty, Kyler Murray loses the following week,
which he did.
It happened again this week. He's 0 for whatever with new releases of Call of Duty.
It's gonna be 0 for 3 or 0 for 4.
Hilarious.
Yeah. And the last thing, so I just read just before getting on here, I was on Twitter, and EA has just signed a deal with Marvel Games, and they're gonna a 3-game deal with EA. So if it depends on what company it is. If it's Respawn that made I think it's Respawn who made the latest Star Wars game.
Oh, okay. I don't know if it's them or not.
Fallen Order, that. Right. So if it's them, I'd be into it. But they said one of the games is an Iron Man game.
That'd be good.
So that'd be good. But it's EA, so I'm always ugh.
What other Marvel characters would you want a game for?
Well, I can't wait. So I've seen just one trailer for the Wolverine game.
Yeah. Oh, right. I remember that.
Insomniac's making. Oh, I'm so excited for that. And then,
where it's at.
A Deadpool, like a remake of the Deadpool. Remember the Deadpool games that they did a while ago? Yeah. Those were good.
Yeah.
I would love to do a little of that again.
Wolverine,
just
Deadpool.
I'm thinking open world games. I don't know. Maybe if they do an X-Men game or something, that'd be fun.
What about a Silver Surfer game?
I've played 2 Silver Surfer games and they both stunk out loud.
Well, the right people weren't behind them. You get the right people behind them. The guy can do anything.
Yeah, I tell you. But he can't make an NES game. That's one of the worst NES games I've ever played in my life.
True.
Yep.
All right, Ryan, thank you very much. If you have any video game questions, you can tweet at Davey at R Von D. Got a question for you though, right?
Y'all ready for bisque?
Topic of the day.
That's not a question.
Should I say topics of the day?
And
I'm glad you asked.
You didn't ask me a question.
Topic du jour.
You just said topic du jour. You usually said, are you ready for the topic du jour? You just said topic du jour is a question.
Barbarian is the first film we're going to review. This
dollar sign emoji.
This was in theaters earlier this year, and it got a recent release on HBO Max just in time for Dorktober and the spooky season. It is 1 hour and 42 minutes in length. On Roddy T's, 92% by the critics, 70% by the audience. And we begin, as we always do, with our movie and TV reviews, spoiler free. Ryan, Barbarian, did you like it?
Richard, I am going to tell you something that you might not believe. Are you ready?
Yes.
This might not be one of my favorite horror movies of the year. This might be one of my favorite horror movies, period. I went into this knowing nothing about it. I knew it had to do with an Airbnb, and there was like a tunnel underneath it. That's it.
So I would say that that's the best way to go into this movie. If that's all you knew, and that's kind of all I knew. I watched the trailer once, but I watched it forever ago. Then I just heard it was good, and I just remember the Airbnb scene and the exchange between the woman who showed up, and there's Bill Skarsgård, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm here," and she's like, "Well, what the fuck?" And then it's raining, and then whatever. That's all I kind of knew. I heard it was good, but then you're also thinking, well, the name of the movie is Barbarian, so something fucking crazy probably has to happen. I'm with you, and I have to agree. I loved it. It's to me clearly the best horror movie of this year.
Clearly,
it's without question. And I've seen a bunch. Like I posted a list a while ago. I've seen
a lot. I've seen my fair share this month too, and this fucking blew it away.
Do you want to sit? You're sitting down, obviously, right?
I'm sitting down.
There's a couple of key movies I haven't seen yet, and I'll see them before we do our end of the year. Like Everything Everywhere All at Once, I know is awesome. I haven't seen it yet.
That was a great movie.
I've seen, I think, between 40 and 50 films that have come out in 2022. This is the second best movie I've seen.
This movie's, I say, fucking laser beams. This movie.
Yeah, it's pretty damn good. I would have to agree with you on that. And I think, like you said, going into it with what you did, that's why spoiler free. Let's not go crazy on it, just because I want people to have that same kind of thought on it. But
laser beam! It's better than fireballs, you pussy.
Wow. The story of this movie, Ryan. Again, let's just kind of leave it pretty brief. But again, it kind of hits some of the horror movie classics, but again, it goes in and it's a lot of different things. So let's just let's push that to the side. The acting for this movie, I think, was good, and the casting was great. Was it scary?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? I think it was also really tense. Like it was.
Well, it was, yeah. I mean, there's the build up and the suspense in this movie was fucking awesome. And I tell you what, like setting a movie in current, we saw this with Don't Breathe, like setting a movie in current day Detroit, that parts of Detroit, like it blows my mind that in the center of this country, there is a major city, which still is operational, where the outskirts of it are fucking ghost towns.
Yeah.
Like that, to me, that's like scary. Just and I think it's the perfect storm for production, because not only is that fucking terrifying that like there's this one house in the middle of this neighborhood that's just completely bombed out, but like think of filming there must be fucking dirt cheap.
Oh yeah, that might be. Yeah, did they film it there? They must have, right?
They must have.
Yeah. No, it was pretty great. So I got it as the horror movie of the year. It's probably going to be in the mix for film of the year when we do the Dorkies in just a couple of short months. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, it was definitely more suspenseful than a lot of the horror movies I've seen to this point. But then even just with that, it's scary. It passes the can I watch this alone at night in the dark test, where you'd be like, yeah, you can, but like, like
yeah, probably not.
Yeah, probably not. Maybe not the best. Maybe not the best idea. Maybe not the best idea. And like unique enough, right? Like there's certain tropes that it has, and we can like really unpack this in a minute in the spoiler part of it. But I thought it was like certain things that are classic horror movie or classic like suspenseful thriller that maybe you've seen before, but then enough stuff that was new and like its own thing. What is your dork score for Barbarian?
5.5.
I'm saying dual 5.5.
55s.
Anything else non-spoiler?
No, I mean, if you're looking for a good horror movie this year, I mean, this is the movie you have to see. Again, I haven't seen Terrifier 2 yet. It's been in the theater. I don't know if I want to do that, but that's on the horizon. Like, I'm definitely going to see that movie. And I think they said it's coming out for like one of those horror-only streaming services today.
Oh, like Shudder, probably?
Something like that. It's one of those two, but it's like, I looked it up. I forget which one it is, but it's like $4.99 for the month.
All right.
So I might just pay $4.99 and just watch it and then cancel it.
Yeah. So I haven't watched Terrifier 2. I haven't watched Smile, which people say is pretty good.
Yes, I heard that was good too, but I can't imagine like something that was written like this.
Yeah. No, I think like the other best horror movies, and we talked about it the other week, but we should probably include it here in this Halloween episode, but like The Black Phone, Scream, X. Oh, I haven't seen Pearl. Pearl I got to see, the prequel.
Pearl I have to see too, yeah.
But like, yeah, Black Phone was great, and that's, I think, streaming on Peacock. So Barbarian, as we said, is streaming on HBO Max if you haven't seen it yet, so jump in on that. But yeah, Bill Skarsgård is in it. Justin Long is in it. And really all you need to know is a woman shows up to a house in Detroit, Airbnb at night. She knocks on the door and, or no, she's trying to get the key. The key's gone. Then she knocks on the door. Bill Skarsgård shows up and he's like, what? And then they both claim that they booked the same Airbnb. And then from there, a movie.
Hijinks ensues.
And there's a lot of fun. Did you see somebody posted a thing of Madison from She-Hulk, and they're like, here's what I thought of Barbarian. Like, first it was scary, then it was fun, then it was spooky, and then it was fun, and then whatever. And then, like, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, 5.5. Let's get to spoilers.
Last week, I saw a film. As I recall, it was a horror film.
Spoilers! Here come the spoilers!
So this is one of the great parts of the movie is that Bill Skarsgård plays Keith, who is a man who is apparently double booked this Airbnb in Detroit. And Bill Skarsgård, as we know, always plays creepy / bad guys.
Sure does.
All the time.
He's got crazy eyes.
Yeah, he's got lunatic eyes. He's not quite as unsettling looking as I kind of thought in the past. Like watching him in a role in this one, like where he's just completely like wearing normal clothes.
So normal. But that was the thing. That was like, I feel like this was a perfect cast because
100%.
Everyone knows him as Pennywise. Everyone knows him as like this like fucked up character, and you're just waiting for that shoe to drop, and then it never happens.
No, it was so good. And one of my favorite parts in the movie, and like looking back on the movie, is so the character of Tess shows up at the house. They have a thing. She's like checking her phone. He's checking his phone. They're like, no, we both did. And she's like, yeah, it's legit. It's raining outside and it's at nighttime. So he lets her in, and you're like, oh fuck, this motherfucker's setting her up. He's setting her up, and he's like super nice. And this was so well done where he offers her like tea. And she doesn't drink it.
Yep.
Which is super important because as an audience member, you say, don't fucking trust this guy.
Right.
And she doesn't. And so it immediately tells you that she's smart. And then it makes you side with her even more because like a classic horror thing would have been for her just to be like, oh, whatever. And then it's just like, it's a mess. But she goes in there. And so the character you're rooting for the most, or the way they kind of have it, is already intelligent. So like, she's not going to make the dumb mistake. Like he offered her wine. She's like, no, I'm not going to get drunk with this guy.
Right.
He offers her tea. And he even makes a point where he's like, I noticed you didn't drink your tea. He's like, I get it. Like you know, you're not going to drink something from a stranger
that you didn't see me make. Like,
right, you see me make. And then so she eventually does drink the wine, but like, he's like, but then he's trying to win her over. And he's like, well, I noticed you didn't drink the tea. I'm not going to open the wine like without you watching me open the wine. But then I'm still thinking, because it's Bill Skarsgård, I'm like, he somehow already poisoned the bottled wine. Like that's
or like
what I
put like a syringe through the cork and like sprayed some shit in there. Like you could do it, but
you could. But that's
I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for him to be the bad guy, and that just never happened.
That's why it was so good, and that's why it was so tense early on, because it's pouring rain. They're in this little house, and you're like, dude, I don't trust this guy. And you're like, but that would be so obvious. And so they end up going the other way. But also they made him, she was going on like a job interview for some like obscure like documentary.
She's a researcher for a documentary, yeah.
And he claimed to know all about the last movie she did, which made it seem even more fishy. You're like, there's no way this dude knows all about this. And so they hit it off. They have a great time.
And it's one of the overarching things of this. And I talked with Rye, my wife, about this. And what's fascinating about this is like who you trust and like who you. So like you have this guy who's like being real, and it's fucked up because it's like he's being really nice, but you're waiting for him to fucking be an asshole. Whereas Justin Long's character, he seems really nice. He seems like he's just misunderstood, and this was a big misunderstanding. Turns out he's a fucking asshole.
Right. So that's the flip side of this thing. Is so you have Bill Skarsgård, who always plays the creepy guy, and then he comes across as actually generally a really nice guy. He
is a really good person who's trying to help.
And then Justin Long, who's in a lot of comedies and usually plays like a nice guy,
super likable. Yeah,
he's a fucking terrible piece of shit guy. Piece of shit guy. You know what's funny is so the guy who wrote and directed this movie, he was in. Remember the Whitest Kids You Know, that like sketch comedy group? He was like one of those three guys that was.
And he hasn't really done anything else.
No. He did that, and he like acts in a bunch of stuff. He's directed like one other thing or maybe two other things.
I looked it up. It was like a short or something, or like he's done a couple episodes of like TV shows that you've seen, but that's it.
And it was funny. I read something somewhere where he was talking about he read this nonfiction book. It was called The Gift of Fear, and it was talking about where like women need to like trust their intuition and not ignore red flags, right? So it was like this whole thing about how like women interacting with men on a daily basis, and how sometimes there's going to be certain things that they do that you're just like, fuck that, and like trust that, right? So I think it started out where like this whole misunderstanding about the Airbnb or the double booking of the Airbnb, like that's sort of how it started, but there wasn't really much to it. And then I think he just started going down this other road, and then it created the rest of the movie.
So what would your play be? So your test in this movie, what would your play be?
I would get in the car and leave.
Where would you go?
I don't know, but I would not stay there. I wouldn't. I don't think so. And again, living 38 years as a man, it's completely different. As a woman, I'm not sure what you would do, or like what your backup plan is. Because the other thing is, there's a cool scene where when morning hits, you don't realize just how awful the area is.
Well, she goes outside and she sees it because it's dark when she gets there, so you can't really see anything.
You can't see anything. It's just raining, and you're like, oh, that house looks fine. It's like, it's whatever, right? She goes in there, all you see is the front porch, and you see like, then they get inside and they're talking, you're like, whatever, that's like a house. And then you get outside and everything is like just like
bombed,
a mess. Like nobody's living there. There's like the walls are all destroyed. There's like graffiti everywhere. And you're like, oh my God. And like there's the other scene where she goes and talks to somebody and she says where she's staying, and the lady's like, you can't stay there. Like,
so here's what pissed me off though. There were a couple things that kind of pissed me off. It's like, if I'm that lady, right? The lady who's like, she was interviewing her for the job.
Yeah.
I would be like, you're coming to stay with me. Leave your shit there. We'll go get it tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, you come, I have everything you need. Like, please come stay with me. Like, I'm not comfortable you going there by yourself.
No, It's so bad.
That's what I would have said, and I would have not taken no for an answer. But had I had to stay there, like my move would have been like, stay in the house, take the bedroom, lock the door. Because remember that they drink wine and then she doesn't lock the door. So I would have locked the door, but not slept.
And then it's just because then the door is opening up, and then there's actually the scene where she wakes him up, and then he's like, "What are you doing?" Like that whole scene.
Yeah,
he's having like
you scared me, like you scared the shit out of me.
But he's having like a night terror,
right?
And she goes and wakes him up, and then there's a whole scary scene,
which you don't do, by the way. You don't do that.
You don't wake up somebody during a night terror.
Yeah.
But now, sort of jumping ahead, but because we're talking about this, the doors opening and closing, and then there's a talk from one of the people they meet out on the street, is that what's living under the stairs comes out at night.
Yes.
But here's my question: if she came out at night, wouldn't she have stopped and done something to one of the two people in there? Or do you think that wasn't her? Or do you think that, like, why were those doors opening and closing?
I have a theory.
Go ahead.
So we're into spoilers. So there's this throwaway line that guy says when he's like, she's talking about there's this woman and blah, 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 blah. And he says to her, that's not the worst. That's not even the worst thing down there to me. And he says to her that the guy, the old guy who's the serial killer who's been taping and having babies and then having babies with the babies. And like, this has been going on for years. Fucked up, right? That's like the most fucked up thing. So my theory is that there's tunnels all in that neighborhood. Like every one of those houses. So like she could go the other way and pop up in another house. So she doesn't also necessarily come out of that house.
Oh, yeah.
There's like a series of tunnels like underneath. Because remember, the guy in like the 60s or 70s was like, this neighborhood's going to shit. Everyone's moving out. And he's like, I'm not leaving. So he said, so that's when everyone moved out. That's when he started doing his building
underneath. Yeah, no, that's definitely true. But when that guy said that line, and this would set up potential sequels, or
that's what I'm saying. So there's other fucking things down there.
Now, do you think the other, when that guy's like, there's something more that you should be more worried about, do you think that person is like intelligent, or do you think it's like an inbred fucking psycho king?
It could be a mix of both.
Because what we see downstairs is an old version of the dude that we also get introduced to in a flashback,
which we never got his name. Well, they got his name, but like,
whatever it is, and then
that's his real name. Yeah.
One of his like offspring. We only see two people underneath. Well, people in quotes underneath. But this is why another reason why I love the movie is it goes from oh, and by the way, did you see that the character, the female character, her name is Tess, and then the actress that plays her is Georgina?
Shut up.
Her real name is Georgina. So your youngest daughter and my youngest daughter, both in the same character.
That's fucked. I did not know that. That's fucked up.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah. Wait, what's her name? Georgina Campbell plays Tess Marshall.
That's fucked up.
Amazing. So I'm like, I haven't seen many Georginas. Like, one of the reasons why we like the name is like it's not like super popular, but
right. And the name my daughter is just Tess. Like a lot, it's like Teresa or Therese or like whatever. It's just Tess.
Name with this, yeah. What are the chances?
What are the chances?
Both of our moms are named Judy, and both of our daughters are played out in this film. But we basically have like sort of like three different things, right? So you have Tess and Keith meeting, Airbnb thing, and then it jumps to Justin Long. His character's name is AJ. And he's a fucking prick of a guy. And great scene opened up to him, like him singing in the car, and then him on the phone, and then him finding out what's going on with him. And there's going to be some stuff coming his way, and he's losing his mind about it because he's in some sort of TV show or whatever. And then all of a sudden you get like this flashback to the 80s. I think it's the 80s, right?
I think it's 70s or 80s, yeah. But here's the thing, like the thing about like the Justin Long thing, you start to almost feel bad for him because you, in your mind, you think that like, oh, this is a misunderstanding. He keeps saying like, what is she going to say? Like, what did I do? Like, what did I do? He knows exactly what he fucking did. But like, you feel bad because like, you're like, the police are coming for you. His wealth management guy's like, I'm gonna give you all your files back. Like, I'm not working with you anymore. His agent is like, we're not working with you anymore. So like, you feel like this guy's life is falling apart, and you almost feel bad for him.
Yeah, they do. They spin it that way for a bit, and it's Justin Long, like we said. Right. It's him normally likable, and then it's this whole thing, and all you're hearing is his side of the story, and then it cuts to the flashback of him at the bar with one of his friends, and his friend's like, dude, what the fuck happened? And then the way he starts talking about it, you're like, oh no, not
like, I'm an assertive guy. Like I'm like,
listen,
oh,
I'm persuasive. Fuck. Like I'm pretty persuasive, and like she wasn't into it at first, but I'm like, nope.
She's definitely into it after. And then he fucking called her and apologized. It's like, why are you apologizing? We didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, it was, it was a mess. And then so it's those three things. And yeah, it's the 1980s, because I think there's like a commercial for like, or there's like a sign for like, I forget what it was. Was it Reagan or Bush? Like they mentioned like a president or something from the 80s. I forget. But anyway, it's him and it's his thing. But like the town's nicer, or like that area is nicer. But it's him going to the same house, and you hear like women screaming in the basement, and he's got his groceries or whatever, and he's just walking down there and say it's fucked. But then it jumps
fucked.
Shit's fucked. But then when you go down to the basement, so first of all, the basement's scary enough on its own. Like that's also super tense. And you pull a string, and the door opens.
And she even says, and Tess even says, like when she does it, she looks in there and goes, nope, and just goes like on the stairs, like
players. Yeah, the movie actually had a few funny like there are a few laughs in this, and that was one of them. Like, nope. Yeah, but then you're going in there, and then there's like the room with a video camera and a bucket. Like a bucket is so gross, because like all it is though is your imagination running wild. That's why there's a bed, a bucket, and a camera.
Well, that's why she starts explaining it to Keith, and he's like, okay, so it's a fucking basement. So there's a bed, a bucket, and a camera. Like, okay, it's a basement.
Yeah.
Like, but if I'm Keith, I'm like, what did you say? And she's like, it's like a rusty bed, like a bucket. And I was like, all right, we're getting the fuck out of here. Let's go.
Yeah, they're
like but that's the thing. Like,
check it out.
And the overarch, like he didn't believe, like you don't believe women. Like you don't believe women.
Yeah,
like, and I don't mean to like get allegorical with it, but like that's exactly what happened. Is like she's explaining to you, and the same thing when the cops show up. Like she's explaining to the cops what's going on, and they're like, okay, lady, you know what I mean? So the whole thing of like not believing women, and I think that comes from that book he was talking about.
It wasn't just the women part, which I do agree with you on, but when she went to the cops, she had also been through shit already.
Right.
And so they looked at her and they thought she was like a crackhead.
Right. And they told her to sleep it off.
Right. So like, we're not going to believe you because like this is what you look like. But if she looked like the way she looked the night before, then maybe they take her a little bit more seriously. But even then, even when she's like telling Bill Skarsgård, come check out what's down here, aren't you thinking Bill Skarsgård's part of this?
He's part of this because he comes back and he's like, something bit me. And you're like, okay.
You're like, all right,
like, okay, buddy. Bill Skarsgård.
That's going to be in on
it. And then does he? Ooh, good death.
Turns out, right, he was not in on it.
He was not in on it, and he got his head demolished for it.
Yep. Now there was a creature underneath there that was, pretty insistent on the breastfeeding.
Yeah,
pretty insistent on it. She was
it was reminiscent of a female unclothed sloth from the Goonies.
Well, it's funny. I was talking to Wiggy about this. Wiggy also loves horror movies. He didn't love this movie as much as we did, but he kind of thought it was he's like, it's Wrong Turn, but in a city.
Yeah, I thought it was like almost like The Hills Have Eyes, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, same idea. I'm like, well, I like those movies too. So I'm like, what do you want?
I like that movie. Yeah,
I thought those were great. But how fucked is it? In like they set up like a universe too, where and then when they're like, they go down there and they stumble upon the old dude laying in the bed, and they look at all the cassette tapes, and you're like, ugh, and they're all labeled, and there's like dozens of them.
And so this is where world building here, because some of those people and their offspring could still be down there.
Yeah, that's a good point though. And then there's the dude that lives around there, right? Which is the one that told him like, this is the least of your concern. Oh, the other kind of
not anymore.
No. Which was actually kind of funny when he was like, nah, like she can't come in here, and then immediately breaks in and fucking smashes them.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, that was just so good. Trying to think what else.
Just watching they call her the mother. So like watching her like crawl through like the tunnel, and they're holding up the flashlight. And I knew too when Justin Long's, or now was AJ, gets the gun.
Yeah.
I'm like, she goes back in the house. She goes, he's going to fucking shoot her.
Oh,
like, he's going to fucking shoot her.
I thought he was going to kill her.
But the way they did it, they didn't even like pan to him. I think it was just so brilliantly shot.
Yeah.
There's the cinematography in this, and I hate to go movie nerd on it, is so good. Like you see them like going into the stair and they disappear.
Mm-hmm.
And like you see the flashlight from his phone and he doesn't even say anything to her. And you just hear the pop of the gun.
Yeah.
I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, because it would have been actually predictable if he just killed her. So I'm glad they went through with him shooting her, because you're right. You knew he was going to do that. You knew he was going to panic, and then they doubled down on what a fucking asshole he is when he throws her off of that tower.
And she goes, and then the mother goes, "Well, Spider-Man,
fucking everybody gets one."
Yep.
What if she said that to her? Everybody gets one. But yeah, so she said that's a pretty good.
I've been working on it.
It's not a bad mother.
But
what a shit heel though Justin Long is. Like, holy smokes, is he a bad prick?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was definitely. So yeah, so he shoots her, but the other thing too is like you see her, so that you don't know what happened to Tess for like a little bit, and then when she pops up, she's like trying to save Justin Long, and he's like freaking out and screaming, and she's like, "Dude, shut up!" And you're almost like, as soon as you see her, you're like, she knows what's down there. And she's probably gonna have a plan, and she's probably gonna get you out of here. And he's just such a fucking lunatic about the whole thing, and like won't
just drink the bottle.
Dude, drink the bottle.
Drink the bottle.
Yeah, at that point, you just gotta drink the bottle.
What's not gonna kill you? What's she gonna poison you? Like when you're down there, who gives a shit?
But so she ends up surviving the whole thing. She ends up surviving. Now it was she got wrecked a little bit. But man, so. And the old guy killed himself too. The old guy fucking shot himself, right?
Well, I think it was one of those things like, all right, someone finally found me. Like,
yeah, this means
if you got this far, means you're probably going to get out of here. So
yeah. And so what was the deal? They ever really explain? So so basically too, like Justin Long owns that property.
Yes.
And so the double booking might have actually just been an honest mistake, right? Like that wasn't
so I think it was because he went through like a booking agency, and they did it through two different. One did it through. Yeah. I forget. One was like
whatever
Airbnb, and the other one was through like HomeAway or something like that. So they did like two different services, which that does happen.
But like the people in the basement have nothing to do with that, right? Like they're just gonna go out and kill people who they can kill and bang people they can bang and whatever. Like they're not about that. Like that has nothing to do with them.
But they also talk about like. It's Ty Webb and Caddyshack when they're like, well, you have these properties in Detroit, and he's like, well, he didn't really know where they were or what they were.
Right.
He just kind of bought them.
Yeah, so that's how that could happen. Yeah, so they explain that away as to like, how could these people be down there for so long? It's like, well, he just
bought the house. The house was for sale. He bought it. He never went there.
Yeah, and when he went in and he saw like the luggage, he's like, what the fuck is this?
Well, that's when they have like he's like, I love him yelling at the customer service lady, because she's like, well, no one booked it after, so we only do the cleaning service if someone books it. And he's like, excuse me.
Yeah.
He's like, we only do the cleaning service if someone's coming in, not when people leave. He's like, well, that's fucked up. Like, you don't clean it when people leave? And she's like, bye. And she's like, hangs up on him.
Yeah.
Like, that's exactly how I would react to that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Any leftover questions you have from the film?
Just what else is down there, man? I gotta know.
Yeah.
I gotta know if Tess, who is now in on this, if she's like in her mind, since here's where I see this going. I'm going to pitch this movie. Dave Stradamus. Here we go. Ready?
Yep.
Because I've been thinking about this movie since Saturday. All right.
Good.
So, Tess is now she's in the documentary filmmaking world. She's going to be okay. I think Tess is going to be okay. But she's like, okay, well, whatever's down there is gone now. So I need to figure out what is happening down there. And we're going to have like documentary style. She's going in there with like a team.
Oh, this is a great. Yes, the fact that she's in a documentary is I didn't even put that together. You're right. That could lead to her trying
to what else is down there.
Here. Yep.
Or like, let's try to figure out how this happened, and then it's like a fucking labyrinth down there.
And like the victims, like that's the whole thing, like the number of victims they had. Oh, speaking of the labyrinth, good point by Wes in the chat. This cracked me up too. Justin Long's reaction to there being like a hidden basement wasn't like freaked out like you would be watching a horror movie. Right. It was him as a landlord being like, oh, look at all this extra footage, and he's got the tape measure and he's down there just like running through. Like that was actually pretty funny.
And I said out loud to Rye as we're watching this, I'm like, before he even brought up the law, I looked at her and I said, I don't think it counts for actual square footage, but it counts for like, it doesn't count for square feet, but it counts for like actual footage, meaning like square feet only applies to livable space. It doesn't apply to like attics and then he went into the whole thing where it doesn't count. Attics and basements don't count.
And then he Googled it and he's like, oh, that sucks. And he's like, oh, actually, but it's still some added
it's
value.
The total. Yeah. It's like the total footage rather than
funny.
Yeah.
So
that's so funny.
You want a Barbarian 2?
Hell, don't.
I definitely
who doesn't? Who in their right mind doesn't want a Barbarian 2?
My guess is that we will get a Barbarian 2 because as of last check, it has made $43 million at the box office, and guess how much it cost to make?
5.
Yep, 4.5.
Yep.
So yeah, that's how you get sequels if you make that much money. And I'll tell you what, and that was just people watching the trailer and going to see it. Now that they had the full release on HBO Max, I think this movie is going to jump. Like so many people have seen it now over the last month and so many people listen to this very podcast that it's going to get a second movie.
And I love that that word of mouth, little horror movies like this still exist. You know, I love it.
Yeah.
And you see what we're going to talk about next. Shit, I don't even know if we have time. We're gonna have to breeze through this, but
yeah, we have to shoehorn it here. But let's so we're done with Barbarian. But again, let us know what you guys thought. Davey and I both gave it a 5.5 and absolutely loved it. Let's rip through this one because we did touch on it a little bit before, but let's rip through this one.
Last week, I saw a film. As I recall, it was a horror film.
So this movie came out 5 years ago. Terrifier, 2017. Terrifier 2 just came out, but neither Davey nor I have seen it yet. Although friend of the podcast, Chris Jericho, is in it, which is just another reason to see it. But Terrifier 1 is currently streaming free on Tubi. How about this? 1 hour and 22 minutes.
Just this is with Barbarian 2.
Yeah.
Not a fucking wasted minute in either one of these movies.
Nope. Barbarian, there's no unnecessary time. Like everything is going towards something. There's a reason for it. Terrifier, unlike Barbarian on Roddy T's 56 critics, 55 audience.
And honestly, I think it's just acting and story. Yep. Like the acting in this movie is like I've said it before, it's one rung on the ladder above porno.
Barely above porno. You're right.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this.
Brutal. Yeah.
Did you like it?
I did.
Yeah.
And like as Barbarian is everything you want in a like an actual thriller horror movie, right?
Yeah.
Terrifier is what a slasher movie, like a gross out slasher movie, like good. The B movie is back, my man.
Yes. I think it might be. I don't love the phrase, but torture porn gets tossed around there a lot for like Hostels and Saws. So right away, you're going to kind of like alienate some of the audience, or there's going to be a group of people that just straight up don't want to see it. So if you're one of those people, like it's not for you. But if that doesn't completely gross you out or you're okay with it, then Terrifier is a sneaky hit. Now, I'm curious because I saw this at one time. This was on Netflix, and when you would scroll through like horror movies, you'd see the crazy clown face, and I'm like, no. I'm like, it's a movie I've never heard of. It's on Netflix, which obviously there's been some real dumps on Netflix,
right?
And I don't particularly like clowns.
I watched the trailer. Like, there's no one in this that I recognize.
None of it.
Even in the trailer, the acting is horrible. Like this, the mime clown suit looks fucking stupid. Like, I'm not gonna watch this movie.
Not gonna watch it. And I find myself, and I might not get a lot of street cred for this, but my horror movies are kind of like my heavy metal music, where I am a little bit more mainstream than not. Like the stuff that's like Slipknot, System of a Down, Scream, Halloween, like this is my territory. I love that stuff.
Yep.
The stuff that's like like nobody's ever heard of, that's like harder. Like, I don't know, dude. I'm not gonna take the time to find it, or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then same with like some of the like, I understand there's good B movies out there, but I'm like, I don't know, dude. Like, I'll watch the mainstream stuff.
Yeah.
If one crosses my radar, I'm not opposed to it, but like, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I know every like deep cut slasher movie. I know all of the mainstream slashers. The other ones, like, if they come across my my desk, I'll watch it. So this one I wasn't sure about, and it was actually a friend of the show, Jason Rossi, who was like, Terrifier's great, and there's this second one that's coming out that's getting really good reviews. And I was like, okay. And then I saw that. Then you said you saw it, and I'm like, well, it's on Tubi. You know me, I'm a shell for Tubi. So like,
and again, I had only decided to watch it because I had started seeing the news and looking at Roddy T's about Terrifier 2 and what people were saying about it. People passing out, people fainting in the theater, throwing up. I'm like, okay, let's see what this is all about. So that's when I decided to pull the trigger and watch it on Tubi. And I was at home by myself one night. I'm like, all right, I'll fucking watch this.
How would you describe the film to someone who hasn't seen it?
It is just a gross out slasher movie. It is an old school like B movie, like gross out B movie, and it pulls no punches. It knows what it is.
Yeah, it does.
You know what I'm saying?
It does.
It's a bit of a cosmic. There is no cosmic gumbo. It is just one thing and one thing only, and that is like rip your face off slasher movie.
I figure that.
I'm going to jump ahead here because you asked this question here. The clown, Art the Clown.
Yeah.
Not a horror icon yet.
Man, I'm with you. And I think Goo might ask this a while ago on Mac and Goo when he was talking about how like the what would you call it? Like the horror villains that are like Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger. Like I don't even know what you call that. Is it like
slashers?
No, but it's like the mascot villain or like whatever you would the term is. I forget what he said.
Here's the thing that I think sets Art the Clown apart. So if you think of like these silent slashers like Michael Myers, or you think of Jason or whatever, Freddy's very quippy.
Yeah.
Freddy's supposed to be very funny, but these slashers that Ghostface like don't talk.
Yeah.
Right? The thing that fucking sets Art the Clown apart is you see his face move. Yes. Like his face is very expressive, but he doesn't make any noise. And that's wildly unsettling.
Way more. It is. And that's why I think I don't know if you'll ever touch like the big three or even the big four if you want to include like Leatherface, but you're right. Michael Myers, first of all.
Even Leatherface. Leatherface doesn't talk either.
Leatherface doesn't talk. Jason doesn't talk. Michael doesn't talk. And Ghostface doesn't and scream until he or she takes the mask off, and then it's like a whole thing, and that's more of a who's on it anyway. But you're right, like the mask can only do so much when it like turns its face or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas Art the Clown, you see his whole face, and yet still you don't hear a peep out of him. And that's terrifying. And like
he like makes faces, and he's like smiling, and like his teeth are all bloodstained, and like all that shit.
He's got a really scary face. It's almost like Captain Spaulding from Devil's Rejects and House of a Thousand Corpses, but he's always talking. Like he's got a lot to say. But like I don't like clowns anyway. But I think Art the Clown has a real chance to, like, if we were just doing a list of like horror villains, especially if you want to, like, I don't know what you'd call them, cartoonish villains or whatever. He's up there. Like he's sneaky up there. What would your dork score be for this movie?
This one in particular, I'm going to give this a 4.
I was thinking, we have been.
Look at us. We are on the same wavelength right now.
I was thinking the same thing because it's good. And again, I would put it on par with like Hostel or like
one of the later Saws.
I was gonna say Saw 4, 5, and 6, maybe somewhere in there. But worth seeing. Now, you had also mentioned when we had talked about it in a previous episode.
Oh yes,
One Certain Death.
One Certain Death. This thing. You'd think like, all right, like he's going to do something gross and you're not going to see it and whatever. So what he does is basically in one of those torture racks where he has this young lady, a very attractive young lady, might I add.
Yeah.
And it's one of those where they're tied up, like hands and feet are tied up, like splayed out. We'll call it like starfishing.
Yeah.
Which he's upside down.
Right. So her legs are split up top.
Up top.
Head
and
down.
You think like, okay, here we go. And then off come the underpants.
Yep. Right.
And then meanwhile, her friend is watching all of this happen. And he just
takes a handsaw
with a hacksaw and just goes right down the middle.
Right. Start to stop. Right.
Like start to stop in the place where there was already an opening for him to get started.
Come on. Yeah. But like as gross as that is, and as fucked up as it is, like.
But then he starts pulling out the intestines, and she goes right through her face, which is the craziest thing.
And apparently, Terrifier 2 is even crazier. I was talking to Wiggy about it.
Wiggy, I was reading something today
already. He's like,
the director cut something out.
Yeah, it's wild
because he said it was too much, and it involved the penis.
Oh boy! But this is what you need, though. Like honestly, like, if you're gonna make this kind of movie, you need to have at least one super memorable death.
And was I right when I said you'll know it when you see it? You were like, "Yep, there it is."
Thought, and I knew it.
Yeah,
and I knew it. Yeah, that was pretty wild. But I think the big takeaway is Art the Clown, that one kill, just trying to get a villain to be as memorable as some of the classic villains. They might have actually hit it. And now that we're hearing all good things about the sequel, this could easily turn into like the next horror franchise. And so like get in on it now. Go check it out on Tubi. And again, if you're into this, if you don't have the stomach for it, skip it.
What's the director's name? It's like Leone or something like that.
Yeah. What else did he do? Did he do anything else?
No, but I have a bit because I know he's listening, so I have a bit of advice for him. So his name is Damien Leone or Damien Leone.
Yeah, so he also did an anthology. He directed this part of an anthology, and it was called All Hallows Eve, which was the debut of Art the Clown. And then he did Terrifier, and then he did something called Frankenstein versus the Mummy.
So here's for Damien Leone.
Yeah.
Since you're listening right now.
Yes.
Somebody in some movie studio is going to offer you tens of millions, maybe tens of millions of dollars to make Terrifier 3. Look that person, that studio executive in the eye and say, I don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
Just give me $1 million. I don't need a $50-60 million budget. I don't want it. I wouldn't know what to do with it. Just give me $1 million and let me do my thing.
Last check.
That's exactly what I would say.
Terrifier 2, last check, had a budget of $250,000 and has already made just under $8 million.
Right.
So again, both Barbarian and Terrifier are making their money for sure.
But like, if you're that guy, be like, just let me. I would rather you pay me less and just let me do what I want to do.
Yes,
people will see it.
Guess what? Guess how much Terrifier 1 cost to make?
I mean, how much does a decent camera and like a memory card cost? Because it sounded like shit. It was lit like shit. Like the whole thing looked like shit.
This also and the acting, right? You have to pay for the acting.
Yeah, but like you could have got. I mean, shit. You could the two guys running the pizza place. Those are probably the guys who run that pizza place.
How much do you think it costs? I have the number.
80,000.
35,000.
Jesus Christ.
Amazing. Well done. So there you go. All right, that'll do it for us. Any other thoughts on Terrifier?
No, I mean, if you love this shit, if you're a horror person and you love like Fangoria magazine or like Famous Monsters and like all that shit, watch this movie. Chances are you probably already have. If you love this shit, you've probably already seen it.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Oh, Jason in the chat says All Hallows Eve is on Tubi as well. It's a different actor that plays Art the Clown, but still cool for a little.
Not interested then. Exactly. That guy I think the guy who plays Art the Clown, David Howard Thornton, he's amazing.
He is really, really good.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. So yeah, I think he was on Jericho's podcast. I haven't listened to it yet, but I think he was on Jericho's podcast not that long ago. So I gotta check that out. That'll do it for us. Obviously, we spent more time on Barbarian, but it's one of me and Davey's favorite movies of the year. So that is why. Let us know what you think of either one of these movies, or I know Dorktober has come to a close, but what other horror movies this year have we not discussed, have we not seen that we need to see? Because I want to make sure I see them before the end of the year. As for next week, Davey, do we do Black Adam? Do we finally get around to Black Adam? We could also do Tales of the Jedi. Maybe we can discuss this off the air as well. But those are two candidates that I have.
Well, let's put it to a vote. I say we put it to a vote.
All right, we will
let the people decide.
We will do an old-fashioned Twitter poll: Black Adam or Tales of the Jedi? Because then I know we have Black Panther 2 coming out soon,
which I've heard nothing but amazing things about that.
We'll definitely.
I'm so excited to see that.
Same. And then we'll definitely do an Andor episode. So those are two that I know that are coming out. But that'll do it for us at Dork Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And Davey, you don't give a shit about anything, do you?
Wait, did we do pick of the pod?
No time this week.
Well, let me get one in pick of the pod, and then I'll tell you whether or not I give a shit.
Okay.
So we talked a lot about my physical appearance this week, and one of the things, if you're watching the YouTube right now, it is October 31st. So this is, again, I just want you to know, we're looking at my face right now. You notice that there is a mustache. There's a soup strainer here, which means we are kicking off Movember once again. And again, it would mean I've had this community, this little community that we've made. I cannot tell you the reason I keep doing this is because I get to talk to one of my best friends in the world for an hour every week, which is not a lot of people get to do that. So I'm very thankful for that. And the fact that like our little community is like so awesome, and they're so good to me and they're so good to us that we're doing Movember again. I'll send out a link today and make sure that's all set up. If you have the ability to do so and you want to either get involved or you want to make a team or you want to raise some money or like donate some money, please. I'll make that as easy for you as possible. And thank you in advance once again for everybody who continues to participate in that. And thank you very much.
Yeah, very good. And we'll give you guys updates throughout next month, as we'll be back every Monday throughout November as well. So at RVonD on his Twitter, and then you get the link and everything that you need to do there. And again, thank you very much for those who can. And finally, Ryan, you don't give a shit about anything, do you?
What'd you say?
I said you don't give a shit about anything, do you?
Not really. Quit fucking with them.